Okay, I think we should be good to start off. All right, welcome everyone. This is our first webinar from our series Logistic Reimagined, where we're going to be covering in optimizing returns management for bulky items. It's very exciting, and thank you for everyone, for joining in. We really appreciate it. It's going to be a fun journey. And I hope you're all subscribed to our calendar because we're going to have many more events scheduled like this. So I wanted to do a couple of things. First, just some house items. We will have questions that you can ask through for Mick and Diz. If you want to ask any questions, please do put them in the chat. And when the end of the session comes through, we will take those on as we go through. The second thing that we do have is for all our attendees, we are doing a raffle alert. So $500 Liquid Donate credit is going to be there for one lucky attendee. And this is going to be as a thank you for attending the webinar. We're going to have this picked out at the end of the session. You don't have to do any additional steps. Just stay through, stay tuned, and at the end of the session, we're going to pick somebody randomly, and we will announce it during this webinar. So good luck, and thank you for joining us on that. Now, as before I get started, so I'm going to introduce our two lovely host/speaker over here. So Mick is a seasoned professional with almost a decade of experience in the sustainability field. He's currently leading Room and Board's Better Planet initiative, where he spearheads the company's efforts in areas such as GHG emission reductions, renewable energy, fleet electrification, waste management, and circularity. Through his leadership, Mick ensures that Room and Board remains committed to achieving its sustainability objectives and contributes to building a greener planet. And before joining Room and Board, Mick held a pivotal role at Target Corporation, where he was instrumental in driving the company's zero waste goals. So thank you, Mick, so much for joining us. And next, I'd like to introduce our host, Diz, who's the founder and CEO of Liquid Donate, which is revolutionizing how businesses handle inventory. Diz is a tech veteran who spearheaded social impact initiatives at Postmates, including the award-winning Civic Labs and Food Fight. Diz now leads Liquid Donate in its mission to accelerate the world's transition to a circular economy. And for those who don't know, Liquid Donate's platform connects excess inventory with nonprofits worldwide, helping businesses cut costs, minimize weight, and benefit communities all around. Since launching, Liquid Donate has raised multi-million-dollar funding, donated nearly 12 million items worth over $100 million, and also earned recognition as a leader in sustainable tech innovation. Beyond Liquid Donate, Diz also serves on the Fast Company Impact Council and A Meal with Dignity's board. She's championing social responsibility and community development there. So with that, I'd love to pass this virtual mic over to Diz to take it on from here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Hassan. Really appreciate the introduction. Mick, I'm so glad to be having this conversation with you today. Everyone who's attending, I'm excited to see you here learning a little bit more about how we can optimize returns management for bulky items and how we're really revolutionizing the space. And a lot of the work that we're doing here at Liquid Donate was led because of what Mick was doing with the Room and Board team as being one of our earliest customers here. So really, really grateful to Mick for being here and for being such a great partner. So I'll start out by telling a little bit about myself, and then Mick will jump right in. So like Hassan said, prior to founding Liquid Donate, I was the 15th employee at Postmates. So I have a lot of time having worked in the logistics space and thinking about big problems like how do we solve things that need to be moved in a timely manner, things that need to be moved that are oversized, things that are undersized, all kinds of different problems in that space. So excited to bring that expertise here and talk to Mick a little bit about the rise of bulky item returns and kind of why it's such a big problem and hassle for operations experts. So Mick, just going to jump right into it. Tell me a little bit about how Room and Board has experienced a trend in bulky returns.
Yeah, right. So like during during COVID and the pandemic, there was a lot of obviously people staying at home and kind of remodeling, and our business almost doubled during COVID, and luckily it's kind of maintained. So with that, just naturally with the more sales you're putting out the door, naturally more things are going to be coming back in the door. So I've only been at Room and Board for 2 years, but I'm told that like the return rates are quite a bit higher than what they were prior to the pandemic.
Got it. And tell me a little bit about the types of products that you all sell at Room and Board so that we can all kind of get an idea of when we say bulky, what do we mean?
Right. So we're, yeah, for those that don't know, because we're, coming from Target, everyone has heard of Target likely, but not so much with Room and Board. So Room and Board is a home furnishings company. We do about 90% residential. So things like sofas, beds, dressers, kind of you name it. And then we also have about 10% of the commercial business, which is similar things, but conference tables and things like that. So we've got everything from small like accessories to like huge 10-foot sectional sofas and even bigger. So a lot of our stuff is very bulky.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about what a returns flow looks like for you in an ideal state for something that is really easy to, maybe ship back or return to a store versus when you have an item that is this 10-foot conference table or this really large sectional. What does the traditional consumer do with these products?
Right. So with similarly to that 90-10 ratio, about 90% of our furniture we're delivering ourselves, and then about 10% we're shipping via UPS or FedEx. And so to answer your question, so if I'm a customer and I have a small accessory that was shipped to me via UPS, then very similar to like an Amazon, you'll get a return shipping label and that will be shipped back. But the lion's share of what we deal with is that bigger stuff that was delivered. And so how that would work would be you'd either go into a store, call customer service, engage us online, and basically a reverse delivery would be set up. So just like we delivered the furniture, we'd be coming back to bring it back to our warehouse and then have to, we use a tool, I'm sure many are familiar with SAP. And so originally when the return is initiated, it's in a tool called Engage, which is kind of a store-facing, customer-facing tool. But once it comes back to the warehouse, everything then happens in SAP, and we go through kind of an inspection, and then a disposition code is assigned, whether it's going to be, it's absolutely mint, nothing's wrong with it. It can go back to good stock. It might be not quite mint, but we can sell it. We have the advantage, a lot of our competitors don't. We run 2 physical outlet brick and mortar stores. So a lot of things we can move back through that, like maybe like minor scratch and dent. And then things are also in that donate category. So that's a third disposition. And then finally, the worst one that we all hate is the kind of the destroy,
Yeah.
where that's going to be, in the past, it was landfilled. Now we're working with other kind of startups like yourself that are into that furniture recycling space and trying to build that out a bit more, but that's kind of how we work it today.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like it's a really complicated process operationally. And also moving the products that many times is probably pretty expensive, right?
It's super expensive, and also, as I'm sure everyone knows, like distribution centers, delivery centers are set up to like take furniture from the furniture manufacturers and bring it to the person, not then bring it back.
Right.
So the reverse logistics is like it's a money thing, but it's also a space constraint thing on the back end when we bring stuff back that was not intended to come back.
Yeah. So one of the things that, we focused on with Liquid Donate is making sure that the appropriate disposition outcome for the product when it's being returned is what is happening, that we're building this really smart routing software so that if a product is going to be able to be resold, we make sure we get it somewhere where it can be resold for that brand. If it's something that needs to be donated, it gets donated. And so with that, how has that kind of changed the way that you all handle bulky item returns and thinking about them?
So one of the things that I did early on that I think has been a success here is, luckily I had the support to do this, was we've assigned what we're calling a sustainability liaison in every distribution center. So there's at least one person who, in addition to their kind of day job responsibilities, takes on sustainability. It might be a stretch goal, it might be they're just personally passionate about it in their own lives. And within that liaison group, we're meeting monthly. And so one of the things early on that I did was, if you're familiar with, I know you are, Diz, but on the call, the waste hierarchy, right? Because when you're talking about a company's diversion score, it doesn't really see the difference between recycle versus reuse versus reduce. And so you could just recycle everything and still get the same score, right? So I really wanted to set up a culture of like, there's better than recycling. So really what we want to do is eliminate it from happening in the first place. So that was things like better loading practices and things that when we're moving it, so we're not damaging furniture in transit. But then if we can't do that, if we can't stop it, then let's really try to donate and reuse. And so that's where I think I've spent the most time, is in that space, is like there's a value to this product still, even though we can't sell it in our showrooms. And so we've really built a culture of and through your help and through your site, a culture of strong donations and things like we would have never imagined that we could donate when this project started. So like as an example, through your site, we've gotten rid of scrap wood that wasn't even part of furniture. We've gotten rid of point of sale fixtures from a retail location that your traditional donation partner isn't going to accept. So we've really expanded the way we think about and what we can donate through partners like yourself.
Yeah, and we love that partners are helping us guide the way that the product works. So I remember some of the early conversations we had when we first started were, hey, like, do you think we could try to donate this? Or I would encourage you all to post things that you were like, this won't be able to be donated. And, I think, our original tagline for Liquid Donate was there's a home for everything. And so really utilizing that idea that there is a home for everything, that there are people out there who want to need specific items, whether we think that they are usable or not. Like, it's not up to us to decide, right? Like, we can put them on the marketplace and let folks decide if it's
Right.
something that is helpful for them. So tell me a little bit about, with this group, this cohort that you've created around the sustainability professionals within the warehouses, giving them this kind of like a green team type badge. With that, what kind of training have they needed? Are they mostly people who are already interested in this, people who are looking to be more involved, people looking for promotions? Would love to hear a little bit about how the staff works out with that.
Right, and it's a pretty kind of a mix of what you just listed. So there are some that are coming in that are already have a pretty solid baseline, and then others that just, promotions, whatever reason, various reasons that are bringing people in. Really, the training has been, and I'm always like trying to make it so it's not just me talking all the time too, right? So if there's somebody that's passionate about X, then I'll try to get others to speak to. But it was really, like I said, kind of starting a baseline with like the waste hierarchy was just like a good baseline training. Making sure that we had good signage. So one thing I learned definitely at Target and certainly here too is if you don't make it easy for the folks that are like boots on the ground, it's not going to happen. So you need like clear signage of what, like we recycle all of our plastic film through Trex, but they can accept things that a typical plastic recycler can't, like anything with a stretch basically. So having good signage that says what can be put in these bales, what can be put in this bin, what does X vendor accept. So kind of getting that out there. And then another really big game changer, honestly, has been, and I would recommend this for any company who has maybe earlier on in this journey, is data and reporting. So we've created by location diversion reporting that breaks it out by all the different buckets. So donations is a line item on this dashboard, along with all the other, cardboard, plastic, mixed recycling, etc. And so DCs are able to see how the company is doing, but also how they're doing and how they're contributing to that top line company score, which is the one that we've got our public facing goals around. And so that's opened up really cool doors where, like, if one DC is at 60 and then another DC is at 90% diversion, like, well, what are you doing differently? So it's opened up a lot of like good communication, a little bit of healthy competition. Nobody wants to be last. Everyone wants to be first. So it's been like that. Those monthly meetings, we really, we kind of have a topic or two a month that we really try to drill home, or maybe a new emerging idea that we're going to highlight.
That's awesome. And when you say DC, you mean distribution centers?
Sorry, yes, a lot of acronyms. Yes, distribution center.
Yeah. Awesome. No worries. And that's like kind of the warehouses, right?
Right.
That's awesome. Thanks for that. And so when you put this group together, were there any immediate improvements that you noticed?
Well, a ton, because again, we're a very new team sustainability wise. So my manager who leads all of ESG, she's only been here 3 years. So prior to that, they weren't even measuring waste, just because they didn't have the the professional or the expertise to do it. So nothing against them. Sustainability has kind of been in this company's DNA since the start. We're a B Corp and some other things, but so yeah, we got the reporting off the ground. We got Trex as a partner. We weren't a lot of locations weren't even recycling their film, and then of course partners like you who really built up our donations game.
Very cool. That's awesome. So when we're thinking about returns and excess inventory, I know where we started as a company is that we have two tools available. We have a tool that allows warehouses to donate by the box, the pallet, the item, or the truckload. And then we also have a returns tool so that we can actually reduce the distance that a product that we know is unsellable from transiting, on average by 93%. So we'll actually match returns with local nonprofits using a shipping label and our matching algorithm. And so I know that with Room and Board, we're really focused on what we're doing at the DCs, these distribution centers today. And so tell me a little bit about why and how you all chose to start working on a donation program and really sticking yourselves, putting a stake in the ground for Room and Board on, we are going to put these public commitments in place, and we're going to actually really make sure that we're doing this and not greenwashing a program. Tell me a little bit about how that started and kind of where you see donations going in the future.
Right. So one of the early tasks of our team was getting some public facing goals out there, right? So we have a goal of waste diversion. We beat the first one. It was a 75% diversion by 2025. We beat that in 23, so we're pumped about that. And now our next mountaintop is 90% by 2030. So we kind of had those goals in place. And then looking through, and one of the first things I did was meet with every single leader of the DC, not the sustainability liaison necessarily, but the actual manager of the location, and really talk through who's your trash hauler, who's your, I had to get a lay of the land. I had no idea about any of this because there was no sustainability team prior. And all the DCs were kind of operating as their own kind of enterprise, really. And so what quickly came to light was a lot of these DCs didn't even have a donations partner, and which didn't seem intuitive to me, but apparently during the pandemic, a lot of local donation partners went under, and that was surprising to me because I figured more people would be donating to make room for all this new furniture. But there was a lack of donation partners, and so that's actually, you had posted something on Emily, my manager's, and I'm like, yes, like I'm going to be talking to Diz because I need a partner and ideally a national partner that could help us kind of scale across all the DCs. It's great to have local partners too, but that gets a lot to manage and keep track of. So it just really worked out. And knowing that we don't sell, at Target, they sell all kinds, we don't sell food, like what's in our garbage that is basically going to be things that should be baled and recycled, or furniture that hopefully we could donate. And so I knew that donation was a big opportunity, and yeah, and here we are.
Cool. And so one of the reasons we wanted to host this webinar was to share the great work that Room and Board is doing, but we also wanted to share with other retailers that are on the call today about what technologies have been most effective for you in managing these bulky returns that you have. So outside of our relationship, what other companies, I know you mentioned Trex, are there any others that you want to call out that have been helpful in helping you all manage your environmental program and your bulky returns?
Yeah, so International Papers, our cardboard, we have a national contract with them. They've been amazing. Trex, like a lot of traditional plastic recyclers are only going to want clear film, and then they kind of ding you for mixed. But because of Trex is putting it into colored composite decking, they're very wide in what they accept. So just as an example with Trex, in some locations we've been able to cut their trash services in half just by when they switch from their old vendor to Trex. That's how much more. And by the way, with your help too. So we've cut our trash basically in half through partnering with you and Trex. But another company that's not new, I don't think, but newer to me is a company called Check Sammy. And they're more on the, if we can't give it to Diz, let's give it to Check Sammy, because they're not a donate platform. They're a well, they'll try to recycle whatever they can, and then they'll landfill the rest. And what I like about Czech Sammy versus some of their peers, hopefully none of them are on the call, is that they actually do reporting back. So the others will kind of claim to recycle, but you never really know what was recycled. And me being a data guy at heart, I need the numbers for my diversion reporting. So Czech Sammy will give me like, okay, you gave me 2,000 pounds. We were able to recycle 1,000 and landfill 1,000, and I can plug that in. So we're still kind of like we were with you kind of early days. We're early days with Czech Sammy, but it's promising.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's really important when we're thinking about a lot of the folks that are working in this space are greenwashing. And, you know, I think a lot of them are well-intentioned. Like they want to take the product, they'll recycle as much as possible and then landfill the rest. And that's still the world that we live in today. We're really trying to build this circular economy, and it's going to take a while to do that. And so it takes a lot of players in the space in order to really make this happen. But it's great that they're able to actually tell you exactly what happened with the products. And that's something that we focus on as well. So I like that that technology companies have really been investing in this space and helping.
And we've gotten creative in some other ways too. Like for example, there's a local artist here in Minneapolis who makes like handbags and fanny packs and things like that. And so if we get a leather sofa that's back that is damaged beyond condition to be donated, the guys in the back, or girls and guys in the back, will take the leather off and give it to this local artist to make bags, and then we can recycle kind of like wood core and things like that. So I don't think large companies, maybe like a Target, can do stuff like that, but we're smaller and we can get kind of scrappy and creative that way.
I love that. That's such a great example of reusing something and giving it an extension of life. Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. And I think that, you know, I think it should be a challenge to these really large enterprise retailers to think about these things too. Like while it may, you know, potentially slow down their process at the beginning, it's going to ultimately be the right thing to do for the environment, for their bottom line. And then the last question I have on this waste piece, because I think this is so fascinating for a lot of folks who might not be aware of how difficult and expensive it really is in order to have this waste go out. I mean, you said that we're, along with us and another partner, you all have been able to really reduce your trash output by about 50%. We've heard the same and similar things from other retailers and brands that we work with as well. Can you give us an idea, like a ballpark? I mean, just like we've heard from some of the retailers we work with how expensive it is to even pick up one trailer a week of trash, and being able to cut that in half has been able to save them hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. I mean, do you have a ballpark estimate on how much it's costing you to haul away waste products?
I would say that because I did this recently, we have saved when and it's not perfect, right? Because it's not apples to apples, but roughly, and we're a much smaller company than some. So we've got, just for scale, I guess, we've got 23 showrooms or stores across the country, and then 13 delivery centers. We have saved from this year to last year, same time, $150,000 in trash haul expense.
That's awesome. Very cool. I mean, that's an impressive improvement. What advice would you give to other companies that are looking to achieve similar results?
Because I kind of mentioned it earlier, but and that I've learned this so many times, is that you can have all the greatest plans at the headquarters levels that you want, but you really need to engage the people that are doing the work. I obviously, or anybody on the sustainability team, cannot be in all these DCs all the time watching what people do. So you need to build it. You definitely need to build a strong culture, and you need to make it easy. And you need to, I think, reinforce the behavior through data and regular reporting, so people know what they're doing, and then also set them up for success. So have partners like Liquidonate, or whoever that you can set up to make their jobs as easy as possible. So then it's just as easy for them to list it is on Liquidonate site as it is for them to schedule a trash haul. So there's no really change of workload. It's just an easy decision, and
That's awesome.
yeah.
Very cool. Well, would love to turn it over to the audience for Q&A questions for Mick from Room and Board, the sustainability manager. Questions for us on the Liquidonate side. First question is, how would we start donating with Liquid Donate? So you can provide your email address, we'll contact you, we can get you set up the same day that you find out about us. So with Liquid Donate, we handle returns and excess inventory. We're happy to work with retailers and brands that have these products. It's super simple. You can email us at support@liquiddonate.com, or you can go to the website and request a demo. Either way, we're happy to get you started as soon as possible. Thanks for your interest there. Any other questions, just pop them in the chat. Do we do more than oversized goods? We do. So we work with a number of different companies, like Mick said, from Room and Board, about 90% of their product is oversized, about 10% is not. And so we can do everything. We're completely category agnostic. So that is really a little bit about us there. Thank you for that question. Keep them coming in the chat. Allie has a question for Mick. What specific training programs have you found most effective for staff dealing with oversized returns? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, and ours has been very grassroots. I would say we don't have like an external type of program we've used. It's really been through the use of those monthly calls, setting up a foundation of like the waste hierarchy, who our partners are, proper signage in all of the locations of what can be recycled through what program, but we haven't really put them through like an external training program of any kind. I myself went through the True Advisor. So if you've ever heard of a company being certified as zero waste, that goes through True. And so that was really beneficial for me. And I think I've basically kind of just taken everything I've learned myself and tried to regurgitate it back to the employees at Room and Board without making them go through the course, because it's quite a lengthy course.
I have a follow-up question on that. Have you seen the morale improve? I know that one of my first jobs was working at Target, right? I think a lot of people have had this experience working in retail and having to throw away perfectly good items because of the company's policy. So when we know that there's so much need and desire for products like these in the world, I know I would have been happier as an employee knowing it was being donated. Have you experienced any of that from the staff?
Absolutely. These people don't feel good about throwing something that they know they themselves could probably use. And so just a couple of recent examples. So we had, I want to say 50, we had about 50 of these rug samples, and they were, I don't know what the dimensions, maybe 2 feet by kind of big rectangles, about the size of a doormat. And in the past, those were just to help the buyers here determine which rugs they were going to buy. So we, have them all different kinds of shades of color or whatnot. And anyways, our traditional donations partner, they have no use for something like that. And so in the past, those were thrown away. So we listed them on Liquid Donate, and the Minneapolis Boys and Girls Club took all of them. And so they were going to use them for like story time. So then,
Oh, that's awesome.
and as you know, Diz, a lot of times these nonprofits are coming here to our DC to pick it up, right? So the delivery folks get to see the look on the faces of the people coming in. So that was a really cool recent example. But we've like furnished nonprofits like their offices with old office furniture, and just to see, yeah, the staff absolutely lights up. It's a really feel good moment for everybody, for sure.
That's awesome. I hadn't heard that story about the Boys and Girls Club,
Yeah,
so
that was a recent one. Yeah.
I need to get more connected here. So Chris from the chat had another question for you, Mick. So you mentioned waste diversion as an important metric for Room and Board. What other sustainability or donation metrics have you found to be helpful?
So this diversion metric that I mentioned on my dashboard, basically, which I'm looking at right now, I've got all the other things that roll up to it. So cardboard, plastic, compost, miscellaneous recycling, donations, return to vendor, etc. And so I have information on all that as well for every DC. So they know exactly how much, whatever, pallets they returned to X vendor, how much they donated, etc. So that's really important, again, especially when they're trying to look at a DC who's got 90% diversion and they've got 60. It's like, well, they're doing double the, whatever than we are. So all of that metric has been really important. But in terms of other metrics that we're looking at is the is the expense, and so, or the revenue, because we also make money from cardboard and plastic. And so one thing I learned early on is there's lots of different types of people out there. Some people are going to be motivated by the sustainability story and
Right.
the Boys and Girls Club coming in here and our diversion metric. And but some people aren't, that doesn't move them as much, but the money might move them. And so
Right.
if you can show that that side of the story to those people, or both, but to that side of the story, I'm like, okay, well, we've cut our trash expense in half and we've doubled our recycling revenue. So even if you don't care about sustainability, you probably care about money. And so the financial side, which I also have on my dashboard, is also a huge metric that we track.
That's awesome. Is there a specific software that you use for that, or is that something that you built internally?
I built internally in Power BI, but there is a specific software out there that I don't know if I can plug other softwares here.
Sure.
I'm not using it, but it's Via Analytics, and I was pitched that software, but I'd already built mine. But they do the same thing, and it's really robust. And if I hadn't built mine, I would be on it.
Very cool. Yeah, we're not gatekeepers here at Liquid Donate. We think it's going to take collaboration in the space in order to be successful and actually meet our goal of living in a circular economy. So anyone that is helping people get there, able to help track um, data, metrics, bottom line impact, all of that stuff is what it's going to take. So I think this kind of goes to the next question in the chat with is from Kirsten. And it's I'm going to jump to the second one since it's more related to what we just were talking about. Have you ever been met with resistance for donating versus landfilling, and how do you typically respond? So my thought here was around having to use the numbers and the bottom line impact in order to make the case for some folks who aren't necessarily as motivated by sustainability or philanthropy. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
That's 100% accurate. And the only resistance that we'd ever get here is only going to be solely based on space, right? Like we don't have the space to. So one of the things that we've worked with your team, Diz, is kind of putting a time limit on things. Well, another thing that I haven't mentioned yet is another thing we did early on was kind of designated some space within the DC. So now all the DCs have a lane for donations. So when it gets marked in SAP as a donation disposition, it gets shifted over to that lane. And so we've got one for you all at Liquid Donate, and then we have the local partner lane too. And so I think they've set it, don't quote me on this, but I think they've set it for 4 weeks. And so if it's not on the Liquid, if it hasn't been picked up yet after 4 weeks, then we have to talk about what that next step is. And typically then we move it over to the check Sammy lane. That's what we've been doing to hopefully recycle it. So there's been a little bit of resistance only from a space constraint. But usually, yes, with the financial argument of like it's going to cost a minimum of $1,000 to get an open top dumpster in here, and we can donate this for much less and have a tax write-off, by the way. So that financial kind of argument can usually win those folks over. It's just if it's sitting there for more than a month, then we do, unfortunately, sometimes. But the other thing is, and I don't even know how this happens, but sometimes after we'll email you and kind of be like, this is coming up on time, and I don't know if they move it back to the top or what they do, but typically something will happen pretty quickly. So I was talking with the guys in back before I joined this call just to see like how it's been, and they said it's been a long time since anything has expired. So basically, in other words, everything's moving within that 4 weeks, and oftentimes way quicker.
Yeah, shout out to our operations team, our demand team. We're improving every day. So we've been a company for 3 years. We've donated over 11 million items, and every day we just work to move the items faster and cheaper. Those are the things that we focus on as a company. So I'm glad that things have been continuing to improve, and we love the early partners that are helping us work through some of these early challenges, because before Liquid Donate, there was really no easy way to donate things across the country. And so to build something seamless is what we're going for, and what creative and helpful partners who give us feedback like you all have really helped us have helped us get to this point. So last question here, and then we can wrap up, is around for Mick. can you talk a little bit about some of the upcoming sustainability initiatives at Room and Board that you're looking forward to?
Not maybe necessarily, well, in the waste space, we have to get to that 90%. And I try to tell people here, folks on the call, if they're closer to this, they'll know that this is true. But someone might say, because what are we at right now? We're at year to date, we're at 86%, 85%. And so they might think, well, geez, we're only 5% away. Like we're going to easily hit this by 2030. But what I try to tell people is that's not the way it works. Like the last part is by far the hardest because we've already done all the easy stuff. So what's next is really going to be probably, honestly, is going to be waste audits at select locations to see what is still in the trash, and then working through, are there possibilities? What else can we be doing to get that out of there, basically? So check SAMI being one example. So that's really the next big thing in the waste space, is getting us to that 90%, because that's when we can start talking about becoming certified as like a zero waste company, which would be ideal. In terms of other initiatives, again, because it's such a small company, and you heard from my bio, I have a really wide breadth of what I'm working on. So fleet electrification is really top of mind, with things in California coming down the pipe, and then just getting, our greenhouse gas reduction. We also have a huge aggressive goal around that. So things like, putting in electric heat pumps and solar and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah in the chat did just ask another question around any other cost savings, and then would love to have you just share lessons learned along the way.
Yeah, the biggest cost savings by far has been trash. And it depends on the market, right? And so some DCs, we have a on-call pickup where they're only going to come when we call them to. So if they only call once a month when they used to call once a week, then that's like immediate savings. And some of the other markets, though, and probably the way you were set up at your home, is it's on a set schedule and a set container size. So that's like just, you've got an 8-yard dumpster and they're going to pick it up 4 times a week. And so what we found after Trex is, like, a couple months in, we're like, this is never full. So now we might switch down to a 4-yard dumpster twice a week or whatever. So that term's called like right sizing. And so we're still working through that with some of those markets, as we didn't want to immediately change down service like 1 month after being on Trex. So we're trying to see kind of what the new normal is for trash, and then right sizing those locations. But the biggest cost savings has been trash, and the biggest revenue increase has been plastic. They were already doing a pretty good job of recycling cardboard, but we've like tripled our recycling income through Trex.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Any lessons learned you want to share before we hand it back over to Hassan to do the raffle?
I mean, I'll just keep driving the same things home, like build the culture and have data. That's the two things that I think are going to be the biggest game changers.
Very cool. Well, Mick, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Really appreciate you being one of Liquid Donate's earliest customers and believers in what we're doing. And looking forward to continuing to work with you. Back to you, Hassan.
Yes.